This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
We're going to get right into this. And this episode, I even talked about it with you off air, that is titled, Is Craig Counsell Inevitable? And we're going to get to that shortly because according to our good buddy, John Heyman of the New York Post, Craig Counsell is heading to New York for his interview with the Mets for their managerial position. Craig Counsell's resume, let's just go over this real quick because in case, there are some may that not know, 9 seasons managing the Milwaukee Brewers, a 707, 625 record. That's a 531 winning percentage, 5 postseason berths, NL Central Division title 2018, 2021, 2023, 2 wild card berths 2019, 2020. Last season, he was 92-70, swept in the wild card series by the eventual National League champions, the Arizona Diamondbacks. As I mentioned on my YouTube short, because as this podcast has been off, I think the both of us have kind of been venturing into those, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, and all that stuff. Counsell is the hottest commodity on the market this offseason when it comes to managers. Now, I've been 50-50 on him actually coming here or not. On top of him being in Milwaukee for as long as he has been, we know that he's pretty ingrained in that state, in that town, not only with the team, he's just like the fabric of the community. He's lived there for such a long time. He grew up there. His kids are going to school in the area. But there's 3 key factors, and I talked about this as well on the short, that the Mets have going for them. His relationship with David Stearns, since they've been, working together. He didn't hire David Stearns didn't hire him, but as soon as he became general manager and president of baseball operations, Counsell was there. He also wants to be the highest paid manager in baseball, and Steve Cohen could definitely take care of that business. We all know that. And for me, what was very important is that, family, right? Counsell and his wife, they love New York, and they would be seriously considering coming here, which is very important. You want to make sure you get all those things out of the way. He's been interviewed by the Guardians, and the Astros have shown interest as well now that Dusty Baker's retired. So, Ibby, is Craig Counsell inevitable? Where's your mind at with him coming to Queens?
I've always, and I said this right before we ended our show as well, which is about whatever it was, 4 or 5 weeks ago now. I always had a feeling that he was inevitable, mainly because of this second thing that you mentioned. That was always the money. And I don't want to make it seem like it's always about the money, but there are limitations to what you can do when you're in a smaller market. And I think when you have opportunities that can be presented to you here by the Mets, going with someone that in Stearns and seeing the opportunity that could be ahead of you, the money that's going to be at your disposal, the amount of resources that could be dumped into what you're doing, I do feel like it's almost inevitable. Now, I'm sure we'll hit on the people that have been interviewed to this point, whether it's the Carlos Mendozas of the world, the Andy Greens, and we heard about Mark Kotsay just before. Like, you hear those names, and I still feel that Counsell is inevitable. It basically comes down to, if you want this job, we're going to pay you handsomely. This is yours. And I think ultimately he will take it. But at the same time, I do appreciate, the idea of, whether it's Green or Mendoza or even a Kotsay, where you're seeing names that you're not used to hearing. Clearly, that Stearns is turning over every stone to try to figure out what works best for him. They're doing their due diligence, making sure that in the event that Counsell does opt to stay, or even if he went to, say, Cleveland or even Houston, if he does go somewhere else, they're putting themselves in a position where they understand what's going on with the rest of their candidates and they can pivot and go elsewhere. It's always good to have, plans A, B, and C, as opposed to just putting all of your eggs in one basket. But I do feel that it is inevitable. I do think he's going to get paid, because I think that there is a lot to when that comment comes out saying how, he wants to reset the market for managers. Managers' money has kind of stagnated over the last couple of years. He brought back up the idea of when Girardi was making big money for the Yanks. The fact that all that gets brought up, I think that's for a reason. And I thought Ryan Finkelstein from Locked On Mets put it best before. It was a couple hours ago now on Twitter, just basically saying how, it's frowned upon for news to break during the World Series, because you're supposed to let the World Series be at the center stage. You wait, and then all of a sudden the next day we hear Counsell's interviewing with the Mets face-to-face, and then he basically laid it out like they have the interview, they say it went well, everything seemed like it went great. They wait a couple of hours, 24 hours, 48 hours goes by. Counsell accepts the job, introduced next week, early next week, and then we get rolling. I really feel like that's a timeline that makes a lot of sense, and also one that I could definitely see happening.
And what also is important is how tight-lipped the Mets have been keeping this all offseason. And they've been pretty good about that since Steve Cohen has taken over with signings, free agents, trades. They've been pretty good about that. Side note that John Heyman put, that's, probably very important to the way the Mets want to go about business with their manager. They want sustained winning, right? So Counsell joined Dave Roberts from the Dodgers as one of 2 managers to post 86 plus wins the past 6 full seasons, not including the pandemic year, which was 2020. Counsell made the postseason, like I said, 5 of the past 6 seasons, with the only exception being 2022 when they finished 1 game out. And that's, I think, when the Phillies overtook them for that final spot of the playoffs. So that's something that the Mets desperately want. They want a consistent winning organization, and Counsell's right at the top of that.